"Are you deaf or just useless?" the billionaire barked. The waitress calmly replied with one sentence, and the entire restaurant went dead silent. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Madison's hands didn't shake as she lifted the carafe, but something inside her did. Not fear. She'd worked too many shifts, taken too many sideways comments from businessmen who thought courtesy came with a price tag. But this wasn't condescension. It was contempt. Open. Public. Delivered like it was supposed to stick. The water curved into the glass in a slow, deliberate stream. She didn't rush, didn't flinch. Behind her, the restaurant's soft lighting flickered against wine glasses and polished cutlery, catching the frozen expressions of diners who weren't sure whether to pretend nothing had happened or pretend outrage they didn't feel. Cole didn't look at her as she poured. His jaw was set, his posture smug, shoulders back, wrist resting on the edge of the table like he owned the room and everyone in it. A man used to applause, not consequence. His napkin was folded perfectly on his lap. His cufflinks shimmered. To him, she was background noise, like the soft jazz humming from the corner, like the server who had brought his amuse-bouche 5 minutes late and whose name he'd already forgotten. Madison finished pouring. Then she stood still. For half a second, the room seemed to inhale, and in that breath, a shift began. Not loud, not dramatic, but tectonic. It was in the way a woman 3 tables over lowered her menu, in the glance exchanged between 2 busboys near the espresso machine, in the unspoken questions, who was he to speak that way? And who was she to just stand there? Madison's face remained composed, but her spine straightened, her eyes clear and fixed, not on the glass, but on him. Not challenging, not pleading, just present, as if to say, "I am here. I am real. I am not what you think." The maitre d', who had caught the tail end of the outburst, hesitated near the entryway, unsure if he should intervene. He didn't. In the stillness, time held its breath. Cole Prescott looked up, finally noticing her, really noticing her, and for a flicker of a moment, something passed across his face. Not remorse, but recognition. The kind that comes when a man realizes he's not in control of the moment anymore. Madison stepped back a half-inch. The glass was full, the silence fuller. The words didn't land like a slap. They landed like a pin drop in a cathedral, precise, impossible to ignore, and ringing louder than they had any right to. "I may serve your table, but I don't serve your ego." There was no tremor in Madison's voice, no edge, just clarity. The kind forged from too many nights of swallowing her pride for the sake of tips that barely covered rent. She wasn't trying to make a statement. She was stating a truth. And the truth, in that room, carried the weight of a hammer. Cole Prescott blinked. Once, twice. His jaw clenched, but nothing came out. The words had taken the air from his lungs. Across the room, silverware rested motionless against linen. Waiters froze mid-step. A glass clinked softly in the distance as someone adjusted their grip. Even the jazz somehow seemed to pull back, as if the saxophone itself were holding its breath. It was the kind of moment most people spend their lives imagining they'd rise to, and never do. But Madison had risen, without trying. Not to win, not to humiliate. Just to draw a line. A quiet defense of self-worth, delivered without venom or apology. The manager, Richard, rounded the corner with a practiced urgency, tie already loosened, eyes scanning for fallout. But when he saw Madison, standing calm and composed beside table 9, and Cole, one of the restaurant's wealthiest regulars, struggling to find his footing, something in his expression shifted. He slowed, didn't interrupt, just stood there, absorbing the tension like a sponge too full to drip. Then it happened. A soft clap, A woman near the bar. Mid-50s, pearls and gray bob, hands coming together once, then again. Her husband joined. A beat later, so did 2 diners near the window. Not a standing ovation, not a protest, just quiet affirmation. Not for rebellion, but for dignity. Cole muttered something. Unprofessional entitlement. The words came out garbled, directed toward no one, and received by even fewer. He stood, gathered his jacket too quickly, and stalked toward the exit with the stiff-legged gait of someone retreating while pretending it was his choice. Madison didn't track him. She didn't gloat or sigh. She simply turned, slipped through the swinging doors of the kitchen, and reached for her next tray. Her shift wasn't over, but something had shifted. For good. The internet did what it does best. It watched, judged, and chose a side. By dawn, the grainy, handheld clip, 43 seconds long, shot from behind a wine glass, had circled the globe. It wasn't the insult that made it viral. It was the calm, the poise, the way Madison Brooks had looked a man worth billions in the eye and dismantled him with a single level sentence. People didn't just cheer. They wrote. They posted. They stitched the video with commentary, turned her words into captions, quotes, even t-shirts. She was the waitress with a spine, the queen of composure, the one who didn't flinch. Her face, lit softly under Le Rivage's chandeliers, became a quiet symbol for those too long ignored, spoken over, dismissed. But away from the noise, offline, in the narrow hallway behind the restaurant's pantry, Madison opened her locker and found something real. A folded piece of paper. No signature on the front, just her name in dark ink, written in looping script that looked like it came from someone who still valued handwriting. Inside, the letter was brief. From the restaurant owner, whom she'd only met twice before. "I watched the footage," it began. No fluff, no damage control, just truth. "You didn't lose your composure," it said. "You reminded everyone what it means to have dignity in the face of arrogance. I want you to know, we saw you, and we're proud." Beneath the words was a new title. Assistant Manager, effective immediately. She read the note twice, then tucked it back into her coat pocket like something precious and breakable. The promotion wasn't what moved her most. It was the clarity, the confirmation that grace under pressure wasn't just a private virtue. It had ripple effects. It changed perceptions. It redrew power lines. That afternoon, when she buttoned her jacket and stood near the host stand, no one asked her to refill water. No one barked orders. Instead, a customer handed her a folded napkin with a note scribbled in pencil. "Thank you for reminding us." Madison didn't need applause. She needed moments like that, because real change rarely comes in loud victories. It happens when courage echoes in silence and keeps echoing long after the room has moved on. Cole Prescott never came back to Le Rivage. Not for the oysters, not for the aged Burgundy, not even under the disguise of a reservation made under another name. The name itself, once enough to make hosts scramble and sommeliers sweat, had become a quiet warning in the service world. Arrogance is no match for quiet resolve. And still, he didn't vanish. 2 weeks later, in a sleek studio interview meant to promote his latest venture fund, the anchor veered from finance. "Do you regret what you said to that waitress?" The question was simple. The silence afterward wasn't. Cole shifted in his seat, the glossy surface of his $1,000 watch catching the light. For the first time, his confidence looked rehearsed. "She made me rethink a lot." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The footage had already said enough, and the world had already judged. Redemption wasn't his to narrate. Meanwhile, Madison Brooks didn't chase headlines. She didn't sit for interviews or monetize the moment. She kept showing up. Same restaurant, same crisp shirt, but something unspoken had shifted. Her back was straighter, her steps firmer. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who knew she couldn't be dismissed by the weight of someone else's wallet. Guests noticed. They asked for her section. They tipped in folded notes as often as they did cash. For your courage, for your brother's tuition, for the reminder. Each note was a ripple, proof that truth, when spoken without malice but with precision, could still make waves in a world obsessed with noise. She trained new hires with patience, took pride in polishing silverware with care, not because she was paid more now, but because every task held weight when you knew your voice had already changed something greater than the room you stood in. She never spoke of Cole again. There was no need. He had become a footnote in a story that belonged to her. Because real justice doesn't always slam down a gavel. Sometimes it stands quietly in the aftermath of truth, unshaken and unbending. And when grace is sharper than pride, even the most powerful learn to listen. Madison had said just one sentence, but its echo, clean, calm, and undeniable, had redrawn the lines of the entire room. And sometimes that's more than enough.